Genetic and environmental traits. Each human being has different characteristics. Some of us look similar, some of us even behave similarly, and others are completely different, and their differences are very easily spotted. We have two types of characteristics or traits. The first ones are genetic, and the other ones are environmental. We're going to start with the genetic ones. These are the ones that we inherited from our parents, such as the color of our eyes, our hair, if it's curly or straight, our height, and actually some diseases that we might develop. These come in the code that our parents give us when we are in our mother's womb. We are made of cells. There are different types of cells. We have the ones that make our hair, our skin, our organs, and each cell has a nucleus. In the nucleus, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. The first 22 pairs are the ones that are going to determine our traits, our physical traits, and the last one is the one that is going to determine if we are either a boy or a girl, with the XX for girls and the XY for boys. Now, within the nucleus and within the chromosomes, there's the DNA. And the DNA is like a code that our body reads. And based on the codes, we have certain traits. Our hair is going to be like built or created in a certain way because those codes were given to us by our parents. Now, we, on the other hand, we have the environmental traits. Those are the ones that are given to us by, again, well, as the name says it, by our environment, and they have more to do with the social interaction. So religion is an environmental trait, as well as our language, and, well, any type of social skill or habit or customs that that culture in particular has. Now, I said something about diseases, some genetic diseases or inherited diseases that our parents may pass to us, like, for example, diabetes or even cancer. We are more prone to having these diseases if our parents or our grandparents had them. However, these particular traits can be both genetic and environmental. Those diseases might not run in our family, but we can still develop them if our habits are not the right ones. We might develop, for example, diabetes, even if our parents didn't have it or our grandparents didn't have it either. But if we don't eat the right way, if we don't exercise, if we do all the things that are in the recipe to get diabetes or to develop it, we will develop it. There is this case of two twins. They are called the Jim twins, and it is very interesting because it is expected. Oh, well, they were separated when they were born, and they were given to adoption to two different families, and of course, since they were twins, the inherited traits were there, and we would expect that, right? Because they are twins. But the interesting thing about them is that, of course, if they are not raised by the same family, if they didn't live their childhood or any stage of their lives with the same people or in the same environment, then the result shouldn't be remotely similar. in the case of the two Jims, their lives are so similar in terms of choices and actual living experiences that it is very, very interesting to know about. So they were born in 1940, and they were separated when they were just 3 weeks old. Now, the interesting thing is that from the beginning, their lives have a very, very weird and extreme parallelism. They were both named James by their adoptive parents that didn't know each other. They both had a dog that they named Toy, and both of them married twice. And the first wife was called Linda, and the second wife was called Betty. In both cases, they also had a son, and the son was called James Allan. One was James Allan Lewis, and the other one was James Allan Springer, because those were the last names of the families that adopted them. So they both drove a Chevrolet, and they smoke. So this case is very interesting because, again, as I said before, we would expect them to look pretty much the same, to age in the same way, to have very similar, like, physical characteristics. But yet they didn't just develop these characteristics, but also the environmental ones. And these are things that scientists have never been able to explain. In the same way that twins that grow together and are raised together also experience things that the other one is doing when they are apart, or if one of them is hurt and the other one feels it, or if one of them is sad, then the other one knows. So these are things that science hasn't been able to explain, and I find it very interesting how it is easier to explain the ones that we see, right? The ones that, well, yes, if your mom is this way and your dad is this way, then it's pretty obvious why you are or you look this way, right? And even the way you behave or the personality that you have, I mean, we can see it. We don't have to be scientists to actually get it. But there are some things that are very, very interesting, and we don't really know how. Like in this Jim twins case, that they grew to be exactly the same person. And also when I see, for example, my nieces, I have 3 nieces, and the 3 of them like to fall asleep by rubbing their ears or rubbing somebody's ears. So my mom is really proud of them because she used to do that when she was a baby. I don't know if it's a baby's thing. I don't know all babies, and I haven't really carried out research. But that particular trait, that particular habit, would have been very difficult for my mom to teach them. They don't do it just with my mom, they do it with everybody. And as soon as they start rubbing their ear, you know that they're tired and they want to sleep. And that's something that my mom used to do. And anyway, I don't know if we should call these ones inherited or environmental. Maybe we do things unconsciously that are teaching the babies to do something in this way or another. And if we are, maybe we should pay attention more to the things that we model for our kids, so that we can influence them in a positive way. There is not much that we can do with the genes that we pass on, but we can pay more attention to our attitudes and our choices so that they influence positively the new generations.